There is a bag of wheat sitting in my father's granary right now. 50 pounds. Hard red winter wheat, milled from last year's harvest, stored in a tin-lined bin with a tight lid. That bag has been sitting there since October. It is clean. It is dry. It is untouched. There is not a single mouse dropping in it, not a single chewed corner, not a single track in the dust on the shelf around it. 30 feet away, in the barn next door, there are chickens. There is a dog. There are barn cats that my mother would not let anyone harm if her life depended on it. And somewhere under the floor of that barn, there are mice. There are always mice. You do not farm in Lancaster County without mice. But they do not get into the grain. They do not get into my mother's pantry. They do not get into the walls of the house. And they have not gotten in for as long as I have been alive, because my father does something about it twice a year that costs him less than $1 and has never poisoned a cat, a chicken, a dog, or a hawk that ate the wrong thing at the wrong time. The exterminator in our township charges between $200 and $400 for a rodent treatment. He comes out, sets bait boxes full of a blue-green poison block, and leaves. The mice eat the poison. The mice die in your walls, under your porch, in the crawl space. And then the barn cat eats the mouse. And the hawk eats the mouse. And the owl eats the mouse. And the dog finds the mouse under the deck and chews on it the way dogs do. And now the poison that killed the mouse is killing the thing you love. They call it secondary poisoning. It is exactly what it sounds like. The poison does not stop at the mouse. It travels up the chain, and it kills whatever eats next. The modern commercial rodenticides, the second-generation anticoagulants, the ones the big pest control companies put in those locked black boxes, are designed to kill in a single feeding. That is good for killing mice. It is terrible for everything else, because a mouse full of that poison is a loaded weapon lying in your yard for any creature to pick up. My name is Evan Yoder. I am Amish. I farm my father's land in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. We keep chickens. We keep barn cats. We have a dog that sleeps on the porch and eats things she should not. We store grain in the barn, flour in the pantry, seed in the shed. We have every reason a mouse would want to visit, and every reason to make sure the method we use to stop her does not kill the animals we are trying to protect. Today I am going to show you exactly what my father mixes, how he mixes it, where he puts it, and why it kills every mouse and rat that eats it without leaving a trace of poison in the body for anything else to find. I am going to show you how to seal your house so they stop getting in. And I am going to tell you the part that should make you uneasy, which is that the pest control industry moved away from safe, slow-acting methods decades ago, not because the safe methods stopped working, but because the fast-acting poisons are more impressive on the invoice. A dead mouse in 24 hours looks better on a service report than a dead mouse in 4 days. And the owl that dies a week later does not show up on anyone's paperwork. Stay with me. By the end of this, you will know how to clear the mice and rats out of your barn, your basement, your kitchen walls, and your crawl space this month without risking your dog, your cat, your chickens, or the birds of prey that keep your property in balance. Total cost, under $5. Time, about 30 minutes to set up. And nothing in your yard will die that you did not intend to kill. Before I go further, for the folks who want all of this, every method my father and mother taught me, the ones I have shown here and the ones I have not gotten to yet, I have put it together in one playset. I will not mention it again. If you want it, it is there. Now let me start with what most folks get wrong, because this one mistake is the reason most people never solve their mouse problem, no matter how many traps they set. Most folks fight mice one at a time. They see a mouse in the kitchen. They set a snap trap. They catch one mouse. They feel good about it. They throw it away. They set another trap. They catch another mouse. They feel good again. And then they catch a third and a fourth, and they start to wonder how many there are. I will tell you how many there are. A single female mouse can produce 5 to 10 litters a year. Each litter is 6 to 12 pups. Those pups are breeding age in 6 weeks. One pair of mice in your wall in January can become 50 by June and 200 by October. You are not going to snap trap your way out of that. You cannot kill them one at a time faster than they can breed. My father told me this when I was a boy, and it stuck with me because of the way he said it. He said, "You do not fight mice. You outthink them." A mouse is faster than you, smaller than you, and there are more of her than there are of you. But she is not smarter than you. She will eat whatever you leave out, so leave out the right thing. Here's what you need. 4 things, and they are all sitting in your kitchen or at the dollar store right now. The first is baking soda. Plain baking soda, the kind in the orange box. A box costs about $1. The second is cornmeal. Plain yellow cornmeal, the kind in the round cardboard container, about $2. The third is something sweet. Syrup, honey, or molasses, whatever you have. Mice have a sweet tooth. They will come running for sugar. The fourth, and this is the part you use if you are dealing with rats instead of mice, is bacon grease or any kind of animal fat drippings. Rats are not as interested in sweet. Rats want fat and protein. They want meat. So for rats, you swap the sweet for the fat. Now let me tell you what baking soda does to a mouse and why it works. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. When it hits the acid in a mouse's stomach, it reacts the same way it does when you pour vinegar on it in a science experiment. It produces carbon dioxide gas. In your stomach and mine, that gas comes back up. We burp. We feel better. But a mouse cannot burp. A mouse cannot vomit. She has no physical way to release that gas once it builds up inside her. The pressure builds in her stomach and her gut, and within a few hours, it kills her. It is not a poison in the way that word is usually used. There is no toxic chemical passing through her body. There is no residue in her tissue. When the barn cat finds her the next morning, the cat eats a mouse that contains nothing but cornmeal and baking soda. There is no secondary poisoning because there is no poison. The baking soda did its work inside the mouse and left nothing behind for anything else to find. That is the whole reason this method is safe for your pets. It kills the mouse by a physical mechanism, not a chemical one, and the physical mechanism does not transfer. Here's how you mix it. You want 2 parts baking soda to 1 part cornmeal. That ratio matters. Most folks who try this and say it did not work used equal parts, half and half, and the mice ate it and walked away. The baking soda concentration was not high enough, 2 to 1. For a small batch, that is 1 cup of baking soda and half a cup of cornmeal. Mix them together, dry in a bowl until the powder is even. Then add about a tablespoon of syrup or honey and stir it through until the mixture is slightly damp and clumpy, like wet sand. Not soaking, just tacky enough that the baking soda does not separate from the cornmeal when the mouse picks at it. The syrup does 2 things. It holds the mixture together and it makes it irresistible. A mouse will walk past plain baking soda. She will not walk past baking soda mixed with cornmeal and honey. If you are dealing with rats, make a separate batch. Same ratio, 2 parts baking soda, 1 part cornmeal, but instead of syrup, stir in a spoonful of bacon grease or beef tallow or lard, any animal fat you have on hand. Work it through the mixture until it holds together. Rats are scavengers. They eat garbage. They eat meat. They eat anything that smells like animal protein. The bacon grease is what draws them in. Mix both batches if you have both mice and rats, because you probably do. Now, here's the trick most folks get wrong, and it is the reason half the people who try this give up too soon. Where you put the bait matters more than what is in it. Mice and rats are what the old-timers call wall runners. They do not cross open ground if they can help it. They run along the edges of rooms, along the baseboards, behind furniture, against the wall of the barn, through the gaps between the hay bales and the siding. They feel with their whiskers and they follow surfaces. A bait dish sitting in the middle of the kitchen floor will not be touched. The same dish pushed flat against the baseboard behind the stove will be licked clean by morning. Place your bait along walls, behind the refrigerator, under the sink where the pipe comes through the wall, along the baseboard in the basement, against the foundation wall inside the barn. Anywhere you see droppings, set the bait right there, because droppings tell you exactly where the mice are traveling. They are drawing you a map. Follow it. Use a small dish or a jar lid for each station. My father uses the lids from canning jars because my mother has 100 of them, and she does not miss a few. Put about a tablespoon of the mixture on each lid and set it flat on the ground against the wall. If you have pets or small children who might find the bait, put it inside something only a mouse can reach. A cardboard box with a mouse-sized hole cut in the side, a length of PVC pipe wide enough for a mouse but too narrow for a dog's snout, an overturned bucket with a notch cut in the rim. You do not need to buy a commercial bait station. You just need a container that lets the mouse in and keeps the dog out. My father uses a coffee, can lay it on its side with the bait at the back. The mouse walks right in. The cat cannot fit. The dog loses interest. Set 5 to 10 stations around the property. Inside the house, behind the stove, under the sink, in the basement corners, in the attic if you have activity up there, in the barn, along the base of the walls, near the grain bins, near the feed bags, in the shed, the garage, the crawl space. More stations means more coverage. You want every runway covered. Now, I owe you the honest words about this, because my father raised me to tell a man what a thing will do and where it stops. Baking soda is not as fast as commercial poison. A commercial rodenticide kills in 24 to 48 hours. Baking soda takes longer. You may not see dead mice for 2 to 4 days after they start eating the bait. Some folks set the bait, check it the next morning, see that the mice ate it, but nothing is dead yet, and decide it does not work. It works. It is just slower. Patience, not panic. Replenish the bait as it gets eaten. Keep the stations full. Within a week, you will see the activity dropping. Within 2 weeks, the population should be noticeably smaller. Within a month, if you have also sealed your entry points, which I am about to show you, the problem should be done. And I will not pretend this works the same on every infestation. A house with a few mice in the walls is one thing. A barn with 200 mice and an open grain bin is a different problem. For a heavy infestation, the baking soda bait is your first line, but you should also be running snap traps alongside it. The old-fashioned wooden snap trap, the kind your grandfather used, is still one of the most effective mouse killers ever made. Bait it with a dab of peanut butter and set it perpendicular to the wall with the trigger end touching the baseboard. The mouse runs along the wall, hits the trigger, and it is over. No poison, no secondary risk. The cat might steal the mouse off the trap, but peanut butter and a dead mouse are not going to hurt her. For rats specifically, I have to be plain. Rats are harder than mice. They are smarter, more cautious, and they test new food before committing to it. A rat will nibble a tiny bit of something new, wait a day to see if it makes her sick, and only come back for more if she feels fine. This is called bait shyness. So the baking soda bait needs to be out for several days before the rats eat enough for a lethal dose. Be patient. Keep the stations full. Do not move them. Let the rats get used to finding the bait in the same place every night. If the baking soda method alone is not enough for a severe rat infestation, there is one commercial option my father considers acceptable, and I will tell you why. First-generation anticoagulant baits, the ones based on a compound called warfarin, work differently from the modern second-generation poisons. Warfarin requires multiple feedings over several days to kill the rodent. By the time the rat dies, most of the warfarin has been processed out of the body. The secondary poisoning risk is far lower than with the newer poisons that kill in a single dose and stay concentrated in the tissue. Warfarin also has an antidote, vitamin K1. If your dog gets into the bait, a trip to the veterinarian and a course of vitamin K1 will reverse it. That is not true of the second-generation products. My father does not like using any commercial poison on this farm, but if he had to choose, he would choose warfarin because it is the one that gives the rest of the food chain a chance. If you go this route, put the bait inside a tamper-resistant box, the kind with a lock and a key that only a rodent can enter. You can find them at any farm supply store or online for about $10 to $15. The box keeps the dog out, the chickens out, the children out. The rodent goes in, eats, and leaves. My father says using poison without a locked box is like leaving a loaded gun on the kitchen table. Careless. Put it in the box. Now here is the other half of this, and it is the half that most folks skip, which is a shame, because without it, nothing else I have told you today will last. You have to close the door. You can kill every mouse in your house tonight, and if the holes in your foundation and your walls are still open, new mice will move in by next week. Mice do not come from inside your house. They come from outside. They are field animals. They live in the grass, under the woodpile, along the fence line. They come inside when the weather turns or when they smell food. And they need a hole about the size of a dime to get through. A full-grown mouse can squeeze through a gap you would not believe if you did not see it. So you seal. Here's what you need. A bag of steel wool, about $3 at the hardware store. A can of expanding foam, about $5. A tube of caulk and a caulk gun if you have one. Walk the outside of your house and look at every place where a pipe, a wire, a vent, or a cable enters the wall. Those are your entry points. Every gap around a pipe, every crack where the foundation meets the siding, every hole where a dryer vent or an electrical conduit passes through. Stuff steel wool into the gap first, tight, and then seal over it with caulk or expanding foam. The steel wool is the key. Mice can chew through foam. They can chew through wood. They cannot chew through steel wool. It cuts their mouths and they stop trying. My father has used steel wool in the gaps of this farmhouse for 40 years and no mouse has ever made it through. Inside, check under every sink where the plumbing comes through the wall. Check behind the stove where the gas line or the electrical cord passes through. Check the basement where the sill plate meets the foundation. Any gap, any crack, any hole, stuff it with steel wool and seal it. This is what the agricultural extension folks call exclusion, and it is the single most important thing you can do. Kill the ones inside. Close the door behind them. Do not let the next ones in. My mother does one more thing in the pantry that I want to tell you about because it is simple, and it has kept our stored food safe for my entire life. She keeps every bag of flour, every bag of sugar, every bag of cornmeal, every bag of rice in a glass jar or a tin canister with a tight lid. Not in the paper bag it came in, not in a plastic bag, glass or tin. A mouse can chew through paper in seconds. She can chew through a plastic bag in a minute. She cannot chew through glass. She cannot chew through tin. My mother has mason jars lined up on the pantry shelves the way some folks line up books, and everything that a mouse would want to eat is sealed behind glass. The mouse finds nothing to eat. She moves on. It is not a trick. It is just the habit of a woman who has kept a clean pantry for 30 years and never once found a dropping in her flour. Now I want to take a moment because this is the part that matters. Think about who profits from the way most folks handle mice. The pest control company comes out, sets boxes full of a poison that kills in one dose, collects $200 to $400, and leaves. The mice eat the poison. The mice die. The barn cat eats the mouse. The barn cat dies. The hawk eats the mouse. The hawk dies. The homeowner calls the pest control company again because the mice came back through the same holes nobody sealed. The company comes back, sets more poison, collects another $200, and round it goes, year after year, with dead mice and dead cats and dead hawks and dead owls piling up in the margins where nobody keeps count. A box of baking soda costs $1. A bag of cornmeal costs $2. A bottle of syrup costs $1. A bag of steel wool costs $3. That is $7 for a system that kills every mouse in your house without poisoning your pets, without poisoning the hawks, without poisoning the barn cats, and it seals the entry points so the next ones cannot get in. There is no return visit. There is no service contract. There is no locked black box with a company logo on it that you are not allowed to open. I am not saying the pest control man is dishonest. I am saying he reaches for the poison that kills in one dose because one dose looks better on the service report. A bait that takes 4 days to work does not impress a customer who wants results by morning. But the bait that takes 4 days does not kill the owl. And the bait that kills by morning does. That is the trade. And nobody mentions the owl. My father said something to me last spring that I want to pass along because I think it speaks to more than mice. We were patching a gap in the foundation by the back porch, stuffing steel wool into a crack where the old mortar had crumbled, and he stopped and looked at me and said, "Every creature on this farm has a job. The mice eat the grain I leave out. That is their job. My job is to not leave it out. Every war with a pest is really a war with your own carelessness. Close the gaps. Store the food. Keep a clean barn." And the mice become somebody else's problem. He was not talking about hating the mouse. He was talking about respecting the system. A clean farm with sealed walls and stored grain does not have a mouse problem. It has a mouse visitor now and then, and the bait handles her, and the barn cat handles the rest, and the owl gets to live. So here's what I want you to do this weekend. First, walk the outside of your house. Look at every pipe, wire, and vent that passes through the wall. Look at the foundation where it meets the siding. Look at the garage door seal, the basement windows, the crawl space vents. Anywhere you see a gap the size of a dime or bigger, mark it. Then go to the hardware store and get a bag of steel wool, a can of expanding foam, and a tube of caulk. Stuff and seal every gap. That is your exclusion. It takes about an hour and costs under $10. Second, mix the bait. 1 cup of baking soda, half a cup of cornmeal, a tablespoon of syrup or honey for mice. For rats, swap the syrup for a spoonful of bacon grease or lard. Set 5 to 10 stations around the property, against walls, behind appliances, in the barn corners, inside containers your pets cannot reach. Check and refill every few days. Third, set snap traps alongside the bait for faster knockdown. Peanut butter on the trigger, perpendicular to the wall. Fourth, move your stored food into glass jars or tin canisters. Every bag of flour, every bag of grain, every bag of pet food. Glass or tin. Seal it up. Starve them out. That is your whole system. Under $10. 1 weekend. No poison in the food chain. Your dog's safe. Your cat's safe. Your chicken's safe. The owl on the fence post still hunting at dusk the way she has since before your house was built. Tell me in the comments below how bad your mouse situation is right now and what you have tried so far. Are they in the walls, in the attic, in the barn, in the kitchen? Tell me what pets you are trying to protect. I read every single one of these. I read the best ones to my father over coffee, and he nods. Because every story you share about solving the problem without poisoning the chain teaches the next person who reads it. And once you have sealed the gaps and set the bait and watched the droppings stop showing up by the end of the month, come back and tell me what happened. Because the first time your pantry stays clean through a whole winter is something you will not take for granted again. Next time, I am going to show you the old way my father keeps flies out of the kitchen in August without a single strip of sticky paper, using a glass jar, a piece of paper, and one ingredient from the pantry that you would never guess. It worked for 100 years before fly strips were invented, and it still works better than anything you can buy. It is the natural next step after today. Until then, seal your gaps, set your bait, store your grain behind glass, and remember, The people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.